Yeah, so with my five players, I kind of have two super obvious ones that I just can't get away from talking about. One total wild card and two guys that I don't think anyone's really expecting me to bring up. So my first one, I'll get one of these no surprise, no shock here guys out of the way, and that's Luke Hughes. I have to talk about him. I genuinely think he's probably going to be the best player in this tournament. If not, he's the best defenseman in this tournament, and it's his year. Anderson's gone, and Powers is gone. He's going to be the guy in the back end who's going to log just a ridiculous amount of minutes. He's had a huge year this year playing for Michigan. And again, next year, he's going to be the guy there with no more Powers. Rookie of the year, Hobey Baker finalist at the age of 18. That doesn't really happen. That's just amazing to see. So he's setting scoring records left, right, and center. He's been here before playing for the World Championship this past year, playing with the men's. He played 10 games, had 4 points, played some decent minutes there. So I think he's going to be heavily relied upon by this team.
Yeah, that's a guy, like you said, heavily relied upon. He's going to be the go-to guy offensively, defensively. He's going to log a shit ton of minutes because he deserves it. You know, he's the guy this year, and I totally agree. He's going to be one of, if not the best defenseman in the tournament, and it's going to be fun to watch him develop just like his two older brothers.
Yeah, talk about an obvious guy to watch and to get out of the way. And yeah, that's definitely Luke Hughes. Of course, we can't wait to see him with his brother in New Jersey case. And he's a big kid who can do it all. He can play both ends of the ice. And he's going to be heavily relied on with this U.S. team. So yeah, an obvious choice for sure in Luke Hughes.
So how do we want to do it then, Harp? Do we want to go like kind of around, or do we want to give Case his five to start, or wait, what
I think we should go around instead of making me talk for just,
Okay, no, Case, I'll sit back. Let's hear.
We'll go around the block. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, well, Case, if you're starting with Luke Hughes, kind of an obvious one there, on Team USA, I'll take another extremely obvious one on Team USA here, and that's going to be Matthew Knies, draft pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think, he could be one of the best players in this tournament, and I'm saying that because I think he could have competed for a spot on the Maple Leafs this year, but he decided to go back to school. And there's talk that, you're going to maybe see him in the playoffs for the Maple Leafs, and that could be, kind of the boost they need for that. But I just think he's an extremely dynamic player. I'm really looking forward to watching him play. Last World Juniors, before it got canceled, he had a goal in the one game that he played. So, I guess that was good. He played for the USA at the Olympics, and he was the youngest player on the roster. He had 2 points in 4 games, so that was good as well. Second on his team in scoring this year at just 18 years old, and that's in the NCAA. And he was also the second youngest on the team. Chaz Lucius was the only younger player. The defenseman, I believe, Chaz Lucius, he's Winnipeg, right? Drafted by Winnipeg.
That's right.
Yeah, and so, they had a stacked team there, but, Matthew Knies really came into his own this season, and being a second-round pick, I think you look back at that draft already, and a lot of people have him going, as high as in the 15 range, because he's been that good since being drafted. So Matthew Knies is my first and most obvious player to watch in this tournament.
I like that it's both obvious because he's a good player, and it's also obvious because he's a Leafs prospect.
Yeah,
it's of course we're going to go a Devils and then a Leafs prospect at the top. But I am not going to touch any more New Jersey players for the rest of this. I think there's only 2 in the tournament, but I'm going to make it easy that way.
Same here. I had 2 that I was thinking of bringing up, and they play for Finland, and we'll get there. But that's going to be my only Maple Leafs prospect in my 5 to watch, because I want to watch some other guys too, and I'm excited for more than just Leafs prospects. But anyway,
well, I could go with a couple of themes here. I could either pick a prospect as a player to watch from my team, the Buffalo Sabres, of course, or I could stick with a guy to watch from Team USA, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to mention Thomas Bordeleau, a prospect of the San Jose Sharks, and I think this kid's a very good hockey player that when it comes to young, up-and-coming players that got a chance to get into the NHL late last season, talking about other guys like Matty Beniers, Owen Power, etc. not a lot of people were talking about Thomas Bordeleau in San Jose, who looked very good in a short sample size. 5 assists in 8 games with San Jose. He looked very good. He's a smaller playmaking center, a big part of their future, and he's a talented forward. Again, came from Michigan with Power and Beniers and Hughes and those guys. So I think he's going to be a very good player for USA as well.
You said that not a lot of people were talking about him. While we decided to keep our players as a surprise to each other, I'll tell you one guy who's going to talk about Bordeleau, and that's myself. I was going to bring him up. He's one of my 5. We've already nailed one of each other's players. So perfect. I don't know, maybe I'll do a little bit of improvisation by the end of the episode.
Yeah, no, that's good though. I mean, like Team USA guys is absolutely stacked. I think they've only got 2 guys who aren't drafted already, and they've got a couple young prospects as well eligible for this year. So they're going to be stacked as always. Team Canada as well. Like you might notice we haven't brought up Team Canada yet, or any player on Team Canada, because it's obvious. If we're talking about players to watch, it's all of them, guys, because every single player on that roster has already been drafted except for Connor Bedard, who, he's the best player in the upcoming draft by a landslide. So, these 2 teams are going to be incredible, and I can't wait to watch it this year. And it's fun because it's in August, which is weird. It feels like a nice little stopgap between, the boring part of the off season and the start of the NHL season. So it's nice, but also weird that it's kind of squeezing in here. But nevertheless, I'm super excited to watch. So I'll bring up this player on Team USA, okay? Charliestrammel. And like I said, he's a 2023 top prospect. He's 6'3", listed at 215 pounds, from the U.S. development program. Last year, he played 16 games, had 7 goals, 8 assists for 15 points, and that's because he missed the first half of the season with injury, but came back out of the gates just flying. Scott Wheeler of The Athletic, you guys probably have read quite a bit about him or from him, has Strammel ranked at 17th overall on his way too early 2023 projections for this upcoming draft. And, he has a lot of good things to say about him because, being a first rounder, ranked around 17, he said that he's the consensus big rig in the first round. He's one of those guys who is just an imposing presence. He said that he has good puck skills, great forechecking ability, and he can really push the pace despite not having a great first step. So with all of that combined with high-end hockey IQ and passing ability, I think Charliestrammel, depending on how much he plays, because, as a younger player in these tournaments, he's probably not going to get a lot of ice time. But when he is out there, take a look, because, if your team is drafting, in the top 15, maybe even the top 10, this could be a player that you should have your eyes on. So Charliestrammel.
We didn't necessarily say players to watch because they're going to be the best players, but players to watch that have an interesting storyline. And a 17-year-old making the USA team is always impressive in my mind. But like you said, they don't always see a lot of playing time, but usually they lack size when they're at 17 years old in this tournament. And this guy certainly does not. So we'll see. I'll be watching him for sure, especially for the upcoming draft.
Yeah, and when you're looking at players to watch, not necessarily the best players, like you said, Case, but typically you're looking at a lot of guys that have already been drafted. They're high first-round picks already, not really looking at the draft eligibles for the upcoming entry draft. And so Connor Bedard is an obvious one. And Strammel is interesting because he's a guy that, not a lot of people kind of have on their radar yet. And so that's a good one, Chad. We'll be keeping an eye out for him on this very strong U.S. team, as we've mentioned.
Yeah, well, like you said, I think we were talking about it earlier. They only have 2 players on the team who have not been drafted, and Strammel is one of them. So like being a young guy to even crack the roster is fantastic on a team as good as USA. So again, like that's another reason why I'm going to be glued to this guy anytime he's on the ice, just to see what, the 2023 draft class has in store for it.